Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 27th Annual Competitive Edge Conference. The Competitive Edge is a conference that began obviously 27 years ago, that a good portion of this team has been participating with over the years, and certainly DASNY, the MTA, the SCA has supported the Competitive Edge. The purpose of this session is to kick off the conference, but also to provide some information and knowledge about doing business with the agencies and authorities represented on this plenary session. You have DASNY, you have Battery Park City Authority, you have the MTA, you have the School Construction Authority, some of the leading agencies in the state of New York, and especially with particular focus on MWBE and service-disabled veteran-owned businesses. So let's get right to it. I first want to introduce, and I'm a little partial, my CEO, President, and Executive Officer of DASNY, Mr. Reuben McDaniel, who I've had the pleasure of working with since he joined back in June of 2020. He was confirmed in June of 2020, and he started actually in 2019. Reuben is an accomplished investment banker who's had a distinguished career in public finance and has participated in more than $75 billion in tax-exempt bond issuances throughout the country. So Reuben, welcome.
Great, thanks, Michael. Great to be here. Good to see you.
Thank you for joining us. Next, I have Justin McLaughlin-Williams. Justin and I know each other for a number of years. Justin previously worked at Empire State Development before becoming the Director of Diversity for the Battery Park City Authority here in New York City. Justin is a true champion of MWBE and diversity and inclusion, and I welcome Justin to the panel.
It's great to be here.
Thank you, Justin. And next, without any further ado, is the other Mike and Mike in the morning, Mr. Michael J. Gardner, Chief Diversity Officer of the MTA and Inclusion Officer. Mike needs no introduction. Mike has been a stalwart and a good friend of mine for 20 plus years in the vineyard of diversity and inclusion. And Mike heads up a very robust program, which he will talk a little bit about this morning. But I'm happy to welcome Michael to the panel as well as introduce you to him.
Thanks, Mike.
Next, I have another trusted colleague and friend, Suzanne Vieira, Chief Diversity Officer for the School Construction Authority. Suzanne and I, like Michael, have worked together for 20 plus years. We started when we were 18. So don't let the haircut fool you. She's the only one that still has hair left out of this group. But anyway, Suzanne has led the, I'm sorry, Justin, I didn't mean to leave you.
Hey, I'm holding on, don't worry.
Okay. Suzanne has led the SCA where Michael trailblazed programming at the School Construction Authority, but Suzanne has done an admirable job of working to increase participation and increase the Mentor Protege program and other initiatives at the SCA, which has, under both of these individuals, both Michael and Suzanne for the past several years, is one of the leading New York State and city agencies in the country. So Suzanne, thank you for joining us and welcome.
Thank you, Mike.
So let's get right into it. I'm going to present some questions to our panelists. I'm going to call on each individual to respond to those questions, and then we will move forward through the program. So question number one, please provide an overview of your agency and its commitment to MWBE and SDVOB community. And with this group, that's a loaded question. So I would ask Reuben, if you can kick it off for us.
Sure. Thanks, Michael. I appreciate that. And it's great to be with all the panelists. You all have done some trailblazing work in the MWBE space. DASNY, or the Dormitory Authority of the State of New York, we finance and build a lot of infrastructure throughout the state, both on college campuses, as well as with some of our healthcare agencies and authorities. Like most state agencies and authorities, we have a goal of 30% minority and women-owned business participation. And I'm pleased to say that under Michael Clay's leadership, this past year, we were 36.4%, one of the leading agencies or authorities in the state. And that really is both programmatic, but also the hand-to-hand combat. And I think when I look at this group, a lot of the work that you all have done has been that hand-to-hand combat, reaching out to people directly, making sure that we're engaged, trying to solve the challenges that minority and women-owned firms have, working with the state and the authorities, making it more simple to get through the process, to understand the RFP process, I think has all been great. And the collaborative effort of all of us working together makes all of us better. So the Dormitory Authority is a place where we want to be a leader in helping minority and women-owned businesses get a footing in the construction business and the finance business. And we really try to provide as much information as possible through our website and through our seminar programming. And by having Michael Clay and his group that lead our effort, every contract, every procurement, they are looking to make sure that there are no questions that are precluding minority firms, that we are able to reach out to the proper firms, and then we also share databases across organizations so that if we have a procurement where we're not getting the response we would like, we have other opportunities to do that. So this is a great conference, a great conversation. I think that if you look at the infrastructure in the state and the building that will be done over the next 3 to 5 years, New York State is a great place to be if you're a small up-and-coming firm, no doubt about it. And the commitment to minority and women-owned businesses make a great place to do business. So glad to be here, Michael. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Ruben. Justin, can you provide an overview of your agency and its commitment to MWB and STVOB community?
Sure. First of all, I want to say how honored I am to be in this group because I am literally a quasi rookie among giants right now. And for the audience that is watching this, I want you to understand how important every word that comes out of my colleague's mouth will be to your business, because this is a multi-billion-dollar panel that you're sitting in front of. And I can tell you that to the letter that all of my mentors that are on this panel are dedicated to accomplishing these goals. It is not lip service. It's not a side thing. We wake up and sleep and dream about this stuff all day. All right. So but in any event, I know that they won't brag, so I need to do it for them. Battery Park City is a unique agency, unique authority, because we have one location, which is at the lower right side of Manhattan, if you're looking from uptown, and it's run in we were built on the river, so a lot of our construction projects have to do with resiliency, sustainability, climate change adjustments. We have a lot of landscaping engineering and a lot of innovative, first of its kind projects that get done. And so in the same vein that we're not as large as some of the colleagues agencies that are here, we are a lot of times first into a space, which allows engineering and landscaping and even horticulture and environmental engineering. There are different scopes that we really need, and we're coming up on some resiliency projects that are going to be in the $150 million range. So we're an organization that in our founding statute, our commitment to MWBE is there in black and white. So we never stop trying to push the envelope on that. And so our goal is a little over 30. And there we have a database of the firms that will be contacted. But my main thing before we get into all the rest of it is that I just want to make sure that folks understand that our purpose in this phone call, or in the interview, I apologize, is to drive you, the audience and the businesses, to get motivated, to get involved, because there are advocates on our end. And that is a huge, huge advantage. And Ruben brought it up very specifically that in the next 2 to 5 years, New York is the best place to be in a small business capacity, because you will have advocates. You just have to make sure that you get there and are prepared.
Thank you, Justin. Michael, let's talk about the programming at the MTA for me, please.
Yeah, definitely. I want to just first of all thank you for your outstanding leadership. We have been bound by the hips for the past 20-something years, and your leadership speaks for itself. As DASNY has one of the greatest programs in the nation, not only focused on construction, but on legal services, investment banking, and the rest. So that's a testament to both you and Ruben's leadership. The SCA is where I cut my teeth, and they have one of the greatest programs in the nation, building schools in a record number of time, but building schools not only in a cost-effective manner, but in an inclusive manner, and inclusive of their M&WBE goals. And Justin, welcome. I mean, we all have had the opportunity to work in this space and amongst giants like Paul Williams and others, and we all have been mentored at some given point in time. And so the MTA is the largest transportation network in North America with 70,000 plus employees. We have a $54.8 billion 5-year capital plan where we're looking to do a lot of great things. And as we rebuild the infrastructure in this great region that we live, we also are going to focus on investing and building our MW and DBE firms in the process. And so we take our MW DBE approach and we put them in the critical path of making sure that they are building for us and are essentially bidding on our projects, winning projects, and making sure that our projects are completed safely, timely, and on budget. And so we're not only the nation, North America's largest transportation network, we are also one of the largest builders in the country as well. We have a $12 billion project called Eastside Access, where we're linking Penn Station to Grand Central. There's a new $8 billion project where we're extending the 2nd Avenue subway from 96th Street to 125th Street in Harlem. And then we have the 3rd track in Nassau and Suffolk. That's a $2.1 billion project. But we understand that we have mega projects, but we also have an internal process where we are debundling. We basically just reached a milestone in our small business mentoring program where we awarded a contract that put us over the $500,000 threshold. And we did that because there were people who said that SCA type program would never work at the MTA because we're a transportation agency, and they were wrong. And they are no longer here. We're still standing and we're still striving. And so once again, welcome to all of you. And we are going to give you some pertinent information as we rebuild New York City and New York State, how you can be included in that process.
Thank you, Michael. And last but not least, Suzanne, talk to us a little bit about the SCA and again, an overview of your agency and its commitment to the MWBE STBOB community.
Thank you, Mike. First, let me thank Michael Gardner for all that he's done while he was running the SCS program, and for him to be smart enough to have talked me into coming on board at the SCA, and then thereafter, in his departure, pretty much saying to the heads at the SCA, hey, this is who should be replacing me. So I want to thank you, Mike, and I want to thank Mike Clay for all of his mentoring and all of his ideas he's given me over the last several years. So let me just talk a little bit about the SCA, School Construction Authority. We are the name we are. We build schools, we renovate schools, we construct schools, we do everything possible as it relates to the construction of new schools and the renovation of existing schools throughout New York City. Our portfolio is about 1,900 schools, school buildings throughout the city of New York. We represent the school kids of New York. The school kids reflect diversity. Our program reflects diversity. So at the SCA, we develop programs to suit the individuals. So we have a small business program for smaller firms where contracts under $3 million go into this program. Anything above that, we call that our capital improvement program, which is any type of renovation to the schools. That is anything above $3 million and all the way up to $30 million. Beyond that, we do new schools. So how are our MWBEs and what programs do we have in place to reflect each category of MWBE? Because one thing we must recognize is that MWBEs, they're small MWBEs, they're larger MWBEs. So how do we transition them? One, how do we grow the smaller ones? And then the larger ones, what do we do to help them continue growing? The SCA, we've thought about all of that. It's not just about construction, but professional services, architect, engineering. So our mentor program, smaller firms come in, we provide them with a significant amount of mentoring services. Last fiscal year that just ended, our mentor program, we obligated about $82 million of awards to MWBE firms in our mentor program. Beyond that, so are the mentor programs working? Yes. In our, what we call our capacity program, where the majority of our work goes into, last year, we did about $600 million in what we call our capacity program, which was school renovations, upgrades, new systems. That was 44% MWBE participation. Okay, capacity, of course. We don't have that many MWBEs building new schools, but that still was a significant amount. When I first started, it was 0. Last year was 6%. So we are now moving firms from coming in and doing smaller projects to move into doing larger projects to eventually doing capacity projects. Last year, we had several of our firms do pre-Ks. That is considered capacity. So our firms are growing, the programs are working, and the significance is that the SCA takes pride into these programs. Number one, our department is always at the table discussing then how do we move? What next do we need to do? Several years ago, we realized our mentor firms, they were small, they did not understand, although they knew how to do their jobs, they did not understand how to run a construction project for a government entity. They did not understand the paperwork. Paperwork could derail your project. You could start a project and not get paid. Immediately, it stops your project. So what we did, we created a program called Opportunity Academy, where we trained students and we paid them and we placed them on how to do the paperwork for our mentor firms. And we placed them in the back offices of our firms for up to 1 year, and we continued paying them, helping these firms understand how to do business throughout government. So this is quite successful. Our program continues to be successful. Last year, we did about 26% prime contract awards went to MWBEs. 34% subcontract awards went to MWBEs. Thank you, Mike.
Well, Suzanne, that is noteworthy, obviously, and that's why I'm very quick to tell anyone that will listen, including those who won't listen, that we've got some programming that's going on in this state that has been going on for a while now. And the SCAs, the MTAs, the DASNYs, the Battery Parks, and others who are not represented on this call are doing a yeoman's job in terms of opening up how to do business with these agencies, and specifically with M&Ws and S's, service disabled veteran-owned businesses, so they have a better understanding on how to do business. Because I'm a firm believer, if you don't know what these agencies do, how in the world can you navigate your direction in trying to do business with these firms? So my next question, I'm going to ask, and I've switched it up the order just a little bit, based on your experience in the various industries that you have expertise in, what do you foresee as some of the challenges that minority businesses are facing in growing their firms, accessing governmental contract opportunities through New York State? And again, we all know that state finance law requires bonding. To get bonding, you need capital access, you need back office, among others, along with staff and supplies and equipment. So what do you think are some of the things that challenges that minority and women-owned businesses, and especially minority businesses, because let's face it, minority businesses disproportionately been affected by COVID-19 and the pandemic, and they are still trying to recover, as well as other businesses. But I see it across the 62 counties because I have the opportunity and the blessings of seeing work statewide, whether it's upstate in Buffalo, whether it's downstate in Brooklyn. I see the differences and the struggles. So Ruben, can you shed some light on what you see as some of the challenges? And you know me, I've been taught long ago, you don't give a challenge unless you can come back with a solution. So what do you see as some of the challenges out there for minority businesses in today's atmosphere?
Yeah, Michael, I mean, one of the things you mentioned is, well known, and that is access to capital. Particularly when we talk about New York State and the size of the projects that we have as a state, having firms with enough access to capital to perform is important. So, this group has done a great job of the internal things we can do, providing quicker payments, breaking projects into smaller parts, helping people secure those types of financing that they need, just so that we can help get more people involved in the game. At DASNY, Michael and his team have put together a relationship with the K-Mite Group to help access bonding, where we can directly provide bonding to folks who have contracts with DASNY. That will help some of our smaller firms be able to bid on larger projects. That's critical to us. I mean, we need firms with that type of capacity. I also think that just the simplifying the technical component of our procurements is important. And all of us have spent some time on that, because it can be daunting if you have a multi-person staff who's answering RFPs, let alone some of our smaller brethren who are trying to do it all themselves while they continue to do their work. So we try to simplify those processes some. But there are a lot of resources around the state. All of our websites have links to how you can work through the procurement more easily, how you can get on lists to get the bidding process. All of us are at your beck and call to be helpful if you have some problems with responding to something, you have some issues that you're trying to get clarified. So, we really have not just a commitment or lip service, but we're doing actual execution-worthy concepts to make sure that everybody can get with us and be part of our projects. But access to capital is critical, Michael. I think we all have to work even harder on that. I'd be remiss if I did not mention that I was honored to be appointed by the governor to the Office of Cannabis Management Board. That file is a new file in the state of New York, a multi-billion-dollar business. It should have 30 to 50,000 employees, but there's also a big capital component. And so I'm really working hard to make sure that we provide capital funding to those groups of folks who are fortunate enough to be introduced to the business. But then, the other states have failed on how they get up and running because they've not given them access to capital. So, Michael, I think that, for us, Gardner, I've had this conversation as well. We just have to come up with more and more creative ways to give firms access to capital, because if we're going to meet 30% goals on a $54 billion program or $9 billion program, Suzanne, we need firms that have capacity, and we are committed to building that. We are not going to just say, oh, we can't find somebody or it's too big. No, we're going to figure this out, and we do it every day.
Thank you, Ruben. Suzanne, let's throw you in the mix a little bit. I'm going to change up the order a little bit. So
Thank you.
Can you respond a little bit to that question in terms of what do you see as challenges for minority businesses in the pandemic and in today's
Right.
economy?
So I totally agree. Access to capital is a significant challenge. Our firms have to understand financing. They have to understand exactly how to acquire capital, but also how to reinvest in their firms once they acquire capital. Many times we get larger projects and we don't understand that we have to, in order to keep our firm going, we have to almost take nothing out of that job and just continue to reinvest in building our brand, building our companies. And many times I think we have to spend more time training them how to be business owners and not just contractors or tradespeople. So it takes a lot. And I believe the SCA, we have a great mentoring program. We have a great capital access program. We provide them with bonding. We have a loan program with Sterling Bank, in which we've done, at this point, we've done over 400 loans, over $40 million with absolutely no defaults. How do we do that? Not just do we provide them with the access to the loans, we actually oversee how they repay and ensure that they repay these loans in a timely manner. So it's all about just truly mentoring them and having them understand that their business is their business. They need to start taking ownership of their business. The SCA provides what we consider OSIP insurance. So you don't have to go out and get insurance on your own. Small businesses, that's significant for our mentor firms. You don't have to come in with all of the liability and all of those types of insurances, because we provide you with that owner control insurance. So this is the number of things that firms will not have and not be able to move. So once our firms come in and they start with our access to bonding, that we provide them, access to loans that we also provide them, then we start teaching them how to go out on their own and acquire their own access to capital. Many of our firms, once they move out of the mentor program, they are no longer eligible for the SCA's loan program. So what do? And what do we encourage them to do is go out and get the city's loan program. And we've had many of our firms who've gone into our larger projects and were able to go to acquire loans. And right now, the city was doing a pretty good job. They providing loans at 0% interest. So we've encouraged our firms to take advantage of opportunities. We've worked out with our firms on not just how to get the PPP loans, but we've worked with them in securing those loans. And then we've hired an attorney and a CPA and provided them with guidance on how to ensure those loans do not become loans, but they stay as grants. So during the pandemic, the entire team worked with all of our mentor firms, and we were able to help them secure millions of dollars in grants and ensure that they remain grants. So many of our firms were able to take advantage of the federal programs. But we have to ensure that our companies understand that they have to invest and reinvest in their business.
Okay, thank you, Suzanne. Michael, talk a little bit about what you see from your perspective, challenges for minority businesses in today's economy.
Well, it's always a conversation of access to capital and access to surety bonding, but I think that a large problem that's looming is the size of the contracts and projects. I just indicated that we have billion dollar projects on a $12 billion project. The size of those subcontracts are 500 to 400 million. So there are going to be very few, if any, of our certified firms working on those size projects. And so we've waged the argument internally and have won about the focus on debundling or designing smaller packages. And the other challenge of that, Mike, is that, during the last session in Albany, the former governor signed a bill that requires on state projects, I'm not sure about the city projects, but state projects, that any capital construction project that exceeds $25 million must go design build. And so we've started out creating and carving out smaller packages from $3 million from where our mentor program goes, from $3 million to $24.9 million. And we're starting to carve out projects in that space and actively recruiting M&WDB firms to bid on those projects as prime contractors. And they're winning $15 million contracts, $20 million contracts, and what have you. And so that's the other challenge, the size of the projects. If you do not have the ability to win your argument against your internal engineers about efficiencies, my response to that is that, yes, managing one large project may be efficient, but you cannot exclude a whole sector of certified firms from your projects by bundling them into one supersized project.
Absolutely, I agree. Justin, not to make you last but least, but come on, join in on this conversation, this dialogue.
And so I was listening, so I was on mute, but in this group, being last is not an insult whatsoever. I want to actually just dovetail on what Michael Garner was saying, that the focus on giving us the ability to go to a design build engineer and tell them, listen, we need you to help us carve out space as a part of your contract. And there is no question as to whether or not that will be your duty to perform, is a lot different than having the large projects like Michael was talking about, where the capacity for the minority and women-owned businesses or STVOBs doesn't quite exist, and getting them into that space where the expanded 15A capacity for us to spend $500,000 on a discrete solicitation for minority and women-owned businesses and STVOBs To be able to carve that out needs to become the job of the design and build engineers in addition to the authority. And Michael Garner said it exactly right. And I know that Michael Clay also, you've helped me also figure out the same kind of idea when it comes to legal contracts and pre-qualified panels and other kinds of areas where historically the authorities and the governments have been able to exclude and not even be held accountable for whether or not there were minority or women-owned businesses in that space. But there are minority-owned businesses in engineering. There are minority-owned businesses in resiliency. There are innovative firms that are getting started. And so I think that the challenges are both internal and external. And it helps us win our internal arguments to even go further than Michael went in on this, is that you have to help us win. The audience of this panel has to help us win that argument. I have to be able to say there are firms out there that can do this job. You cannot come to me and tell me you can't find them. But that means that the firms, as Suzanne said, you have to make sure that you're developing your capacity, that you're getting to that bonding, that you're also making sure you're taking advantage of the advocacy across different silos. Like you have to work for the city and the state and potentially even the federal government with the new infrastructure bills that are coming out. There are areas where your expertise becomes your resume, as opposed to you knocking on a door and hoping it gets answered. If you come in and bid on projects, even if they're right at the edge of your capacity, some of us are here that will fight to help you do that. And if it's unclear whether or not you have the capacity, check with someone who is at Competitive Edge. Check with one of us that's on this panel. Check with all of the other folks that are going to be given all the information that comes through Competitive Edge. Because the thing about Competitive Edge that helps allay those challenges is that we are multifaceted. We're not just a state organization. We're not just a government organization. There are private firms that are members of Competitive Edge. There are state and city and local. So we're here in all kinds of different levels. So you have in this conference, it's not just a one place or one of a kind, one time thing. You can work with any of us at any time, and we will do whatever is possible for us to do it. You just have to make sure you come with what is required, but we can also help you get there. So in my opinion, to answer the question at the end of the day, like my sky is blue moment, which is what I tell my kids when I teach them. Like when people start arguing with me, I'm like, yeah, what color is the sky? You know what I mean? Like I'm making the argument the sky is blue. The opportunity is there. If you're trying to tell me the sky is a different color, then we need to have a conversation, because you and I are not seeing the same thing. I could be wrong, but chances are not so much. But I need to make sure that folks understand that the challenges are going to be logistical. Like Suzanne said, it's going to be paperwork. It's going to be the other things besides the scope that are going to be there. But at the end of the day, I feel confident that those challenges are surmountable. We can jump those hurdles. It just takes commitment and practice.
Thank you, Justin.
Mike, on the flip side, the worst thing that an MWDB firm can do, an SDVOB firm can do, is to have us fight internal battles and win and be awarded the contract and don't have the ability to finish the contract. Absolutely. That's the worst. That's the worst thing that a firm can put us in a position of having a naysayer internally saying, see, I told you so. That's the worst thing. So when you win a contract from our agencies, you must have the ability to finish that contract safely, timely, and on budget.
I even took that note when you said it.
Yeah, Gardner, I think that's a great point, because there are so many opportunities in New York. You don't have to stress beyond your capacity. We can fit you in somewhere. And so if you can do something small, let us know. If you can't do something, be honest with us. We'll try to find a place for you to fit. It's not like there's just one contract out there. So I think, Gardner, that's a great point.
And there's a saying that I've kind of used over the years. Every contract isn't a good contract. So every contract isn't a good contract. So you must exhibit good diligence, do your homework, and make sure that whatever that you're going after, because we're all public bidding, we're required under the public bidding laws to take the lowest responsible bidder, which leads me into the next frontier is prime contracting, ladies and gentlemen. Subcontracting, 30%, 60, whatever it is, that's great. But that's not going to keep you in the game, because I don't know whether you're an architect, engineer, investment banker, a lawyer, or a contractor, or a commodities and services vendor that feeding off a steady diet of 30%, 20%, 15% is going to allow you to expand and grow your company. So the next frontier is prime contracting. I think we have two excellent examples of the SCA and the MTA in terms of their mentoring programs, their mentor protege programs, the graduate programs, capacity building programs to allow you to move to the next level. But I'd like, and I'm not going to ask Suzanne and Michael to regurgitate again the virtues of those programs, because they're out there, ladies and gentlemen, and I urge you all to take advantage of them. But I wanted Ruben just to take a couple minutes, if he would, to kind of talk about what new initiatives are DASNY looking at, or is DASNY looking at in terms of helping to deal with the capacity building in this current economy and post-COVID climate. Ruben?
Thanks, Michael. You talked a little bit about the KMIC group and the work that they're doing with DASNY to create bonding capacity for people. We've also done a great job of breaking down some of our contracts in smaller sizes, like Gardner and others have talked about. But I think even more than that, what we're trying to do with a couple of our programs, one of them is a procurement program where we are basically putting together panels of professional experts where it's more of a qualifications bid as opposed to a low price bid, and making sure that we have good minority firms that we can literally pick a qualified firm to do a job with us. So for instance, we've had several minority investment banks lead investment banking assignments for us. We have a couple of law firms who have been the lead counsel on big transactions. We have a financial advisory RFP out now where we've broken that up so we can have some lead opportunities for us. We've also encouraged some of our major firms to switch their partnering so that the minority firm is actually the prime contractor who would be bidding on a project, because we think that's an important place for folks to play in order to really control a project, and that's to be the prime. So all of those are things that we're trying to do at DASNY to give minority firms more opportunities to participate. I also have to just say that everybody on this panel, as well as most people in this field throughout the state, we're accessible. And really creating those one-on-one relationships to understand the nuances of the different authorities and agencies, let us understand better what you do so when we see opportunities we can really put you in the right places is critical. And also for some of our smaller, where we have more discretion, to the extent we know people, we can help move you in that direction. Hey, you should bid on this package because it's going to be more suited to what you're trying to accomplish. So I just commend everybody on this panel, but really everybody throughout the state in this business. We have fortunately gotten past the argument that we need to be at 30%, right? We everybody in the state has said, okay, we're there. We understand that. And some of the argument about how, smaller contracts and the mentoring programs, we've done some of that work. Now it's the hand-to-hand combat. Let's identify the firms that can play. Let's make sure we're cross-fertilizing, make sure we're partnering. All of those things are important. And, DASNY wants to be a lead in that, and other agencies and authorities as well. But that's really where we can make a difference, is by creating opportunities for folks to have the one-on-one conversations that don't lead to a direct contract, but lead to a better informed bid, lead to more partnering, lead to us to push you to MTA or FCA or somewhere else that may be more fitting to what your skill set is. I mean, those are the things that you just have to understand as an audience. We are here. We are not behind the screen. We're not behind email. We are here. Everybody's out in the community. Approach us, talk to us. Let us help you. Let's help you build your business, because it helps all of us. And coming out of COVID, a lot of the minority firms were hit by both capital as well as just access to projects that were stalled. I mean, DASNY had quite a few projects that were put on hold during COVID. And while we have a rush of projects coming back, there are some firms that really got hit hard, and we don't want those firms to get left behind. So if your firm was hit hard by COVID and you're struggling, reach out to us personally. Let us know the story. Maybe there's some opportunities for us to help you, whether it's through a capital, through a partner, through a bid process. We want you to survive, want you to be successful, but we can't do that if we don't know. So coming out of COVID, it's even more important that you reach out to us, set up a Zoom call, get on the phone, come see us where we are. I think that's very, very important, Mike.
No, you're correct, Ruben. And I think one of the things that I think you'll probably mention a little bit is in the construction space, we've tried to, at least I've tried to look at different ways to address this issue. And as Ruben mentioned, we moving forward on an initiative which provides a turnkey solution for bonding, capital access, back office, all in one solution. And that solution is called the DASNY KMITE Capital Management Plan. That is on our website, and that will be moving forward. Probably within the next 24 hours, our capital access partner will have finalized the necessary agreements. And once that is finished, then DASNY's off to the races, ladies and gentlemen, and offering a turnkey solution for every minority and women-owned business in construction, not commodities and services, not professional services, but in construction, where either subcontractors or prime contractors can turn themselves into prime contractors bidding on DASNY work. So stay tuned. We'll talk more about that. Ruben may share some more information, and I believe there's an upcoming session where myself and David Kamite will be providing in-depth information about this program. But this has been chock full of information, ladies and gentlemen, and unfortunately, I love to, especially getting these minds going all day long, but they're busy. You guys are busy because we have a very, very busy conference ahead of you with information that I think will be vital to your continuance of growing and building your business. So our final question, and I would ask the panelists just to kind of be brief in terms of their remarks, would be moving business forward is the theme of the 2021 Competitive Edge Conference. What are some of the initiatives our audience can take away from the discussion to include firms starting out or firms currently who are managing contracts, either for any of the panelists here or with other entities, and to how they can move their business to the next level of performance? Ruben, you want to start off with some comments on that?
I was going to say my turnkey comment for this this question, but you stole it from me.
Sorry about that.
No, that's absolutely right. Because I look at you and Michael Gardner and Suzanne in particular, but others. I can imagine 20 years ago, you were just fighting to get people to think about minority women-owned businesses. Now, like this program at DASNY with the turnkey capital access program, we're able to actually initiate some programs that are just cutting edge. And so I want people to understand that we're in a different place now, and that's important. Also, with my OCM hat on, please pay attention to what's going on with the OCM over the next, really 4 to 6 months. There's going to be some significant construction work that is done throughout the state that is funded through that program. And we are really focused on those people who have been disproportionately impacted by the marijuana laws, many of whom are minorities and women who have been disproportionately affected and impacted, making sure that they get some benefits from that. So stay tuned for that as well. A lot going on in the state and with the programming. Thanks, Michael.
Great. Thank you, Ruben. Mike, you want to chime in terms of some closing remarks in terms of, what do you see as the next frontier or takeaways that the audience might be able to use to help either build or scale their business moving forward?
Yes, absolutely. When you talk about takeaways and the historic times that we are in right now, we are in a time of transition. There will be a new mayor for the city of New York who is pro MWBE. There's great things happening at the state. If you take two agencies, the MTA and the Port Authority, regional agencies, our combined capital budgets is $86.5 billion. And so what's going to happen is that we're going to spend that money. That money is not going back. And then on the eve of President Biden's infrastructure funding that's getting ready to come down, this region, this city, this state is going to be flush with capital for us to spend and buy services. You need to get yourself in a position that will allow you to take advantage of the contract opportunities, but take advantage in a process where you're going to bring value to what we do. And that's simply being finish our project safely, timely, on a budget, or deliver our goods and services in the time frame that you indicate that you're going to do it via your RFP process. And then you will be golden. Agencies will be beating a path to your door, getting you to come in and do business for that respective agency. So this is the transition era, but it is the era of opportunity.
Thank you, Michael. Suzanne.
I agree with both Mike and Ruben that this is a time of opportunity for all. If you are ready, if your business is secure, if you are a true business owner, government is a great place to do business. We pay, may not always within the time you want us to pay, but once you submit all of the necessary and required paperwork, learn how to do business as a business person for government well, and you will be very, very successful. Think about who you are. Think about the size of your company. If you are a under $1 million company, do not come to the SCA to build a new school. If you win that project and you don't deliver that new school, like Mike says, safely, timely, and hopefully within budget, government will be your worst enemy and they can destroy your company and you. So think about who you are. Think about where you belong. Think about what's your niche. What are you really, really good at? And go after it. There are so many agencies, citywide, statewide, federally, that you can do great business with. As long as you can deliver, it's very important you deliver what we ask you to deliver and not what you want to deliver. Become competent in how to read your scope, how to do the project according to what we're asking you for. If you're a small company, look for mentoring programs, not only at the SCA, at the MTA, as well as the city has the DDC new program. Get involved, but be a business person and be ready to do business correctly. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. Justin?
Listen, I know I'm not known for my brevity, but after following all of these giants, I don't have much to add or change with in that conversation. But in closing and summation, my suggestion is to be stubborn, be prepared, be ready. Do not take a barrier to be a final decision on anything. Make sure that you are ready and show up to do the work and that you take it personally. The thing I'll close with is that I have a 8-year-old who's a catcher. And one of the things that happens is every now and again, he won't take every pitch personally, right? But if a pitch comes in that he can catch that he doesn't, somebody steals second base. And that's kind of like not being prepared at an interview. It's kind of like not putting your bid together properly. Like somebody will take things away from you, despite the fact that you have advocates like us in the system. So we have to have you guys catch the ball. We're trying to pitch you strikes. We're trying to pitch strikes. So I just need to say, it's the thing I tell the kids. I'm gonna catch everything, drop nothing.
Excellent analogy, excellent analogy. So ladies and gentlemen, a couple things you've heard. You heard about some groundbreaking programs that have been around for a number of years through the SCA, the MTA. You heard Justin talk about, what Battery Park City Authority is looking for in terms of carrying out their mission. And you've heard about DASNY in terms of our footprint, which is statewide, which has been in a leadership role in the MWB community for a number of years that I've been involved with DASNY and beyond. I think a couple takeaways, lastly, from me as the moderator, and I want to thank the panelists, one, for your insightful thoughts, and also for your down-to-earth advice. And that is, I agree with Michael and Suzanne and with Ruben and Justin. Opportunities are going to be here. So right now, what I would be doing is preparing my business as best I can so that I'm in a position to take advantage of these opportunities as they come about. Again, I've said in the past, do not put all your eggs in one basket. Just don't do state work. Just don't do municipal work. Just don't do federal work. Put those partitions of work in a basket and continue to cultivate those. Make sure that you're staffing. I know it's tough. You've had a tough 15, 16 months. If you're still surviving and being at this conference, you're still surviving. If there are those of you who are looking to get into business, now is the time. Because you know, when there's a downside, there is an opportunity. There is an upside on a downside. And these opportunities, whether it be, you know, the regional funding that's available through the MTA and the Port Authority, or through the federal government with the infrastructure bill, whenever it comes. Also, the state work and the city work with a new mayor coming in and with a governor who's looking to make sure that the state of New York is moving forward with its capital projects. There's an abundance of opportunity. Make sure that you're staffed properly. Make sure from a finance perspective that you have lined up, and you've heard at least 3 programs, DASNY, MTA, and SEA, where you can get yourself in position that capital access should not be a problem, where surety bonding should not be a problem. Again, I'm speaking to the contractors. And also where in professional services, if you're an architect, you're an engineer, again, no capital project, whether it's transportation, vertical or horizontal, starts without plans and specs. So there is an abundance of opportunity. This isn't just for contractors. This is for everyone. So please position yourself. Learn how we all do business, because we do business differently, whether you're the SCA, the MTA, the Battery Park, City Authority, or DASNY. Once you learn how we do business, then I think you have a roadmap as to how you can proceed with any of these agencies involved on this conversation and dialogue. Because again, people do business with whom they have a relationship with. Start building a relationship with all of us. So with that, I'd like to thank the panelists for your insightful thoughts, for information about your various programs, and more importantly, good common sense on how you can navigate opportunities in New York State. So to the attendees, please enjoy the conference. It is a conference that's been well thought of, with opportunities for you to how to grow and expand your business. And we appreciate you taking the time to join us. Thank you and have a blessed day.
Great. Thanks, Mike. We appreciate you. Well
Thank
done.
you.